City Council, Monday, August 18th. Could you please call the roll?
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder DePula.
Here.
Alder Kugel.
Here.
Alder Bernstein.
Here.
Alder Rademacher is excused. Alder Holmquist.
Here.
Mayor Moore.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 16th, July 7th, July 21st, and August 4th of 2025?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Any changes, corrections, or additions to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. I want to give a shout out to Aline, who obviously had her work cut out for her, doing 4 sets of minutes at once due to summer schedule. So thank you, Aline. This brings us to the appearance section. I appreciate everybody turning in the forms. I would just remind everyone, for those of, or tell everyone, for those of you that haven't been to appearances before, we allow 3 minutes each. And you would provide those 3 minutes by coming up to the microphone up here in the front of the room to speak to us. And we are only in listening mode. So if you ask questions, we might jot them down on our pad or something for later reference. But we don't respond directly to questions. And we're just, again, here to listen specifically to what you have to say in your 3 minutes. Okay? So with that,
Sure. One of them is for replace here, not for. Just separate that one. Just take them a few times.
okay, great. So the first one I have here is Thomas. Who is Thomas? Or sorry,
Yep.
Paul is Thomas House. Paul Berger. Paul, thank you. And your address is 4009 Shipwood Drive, Madison. Is that right?
That's correct.
Great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Paul Berger Dernbaugh. I submitted a letter to you last week, I think you received. So hopefully that speaks better than I can right now. But I am in favor of designating the Thomas House as a historic landmark.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Next up on the Thomas House, we have Kurt Stroke, 6003 Winnicor Road. Would also like to speak, Kurt?
Hi, my name is Kurt Stute, 6003 Winnicor Road. Grew up, longtime resident of Monona. I'm great friends with the Thomases. Big things, I'm in favor of the designation. We're also in the process of a neighborhood historic designation, and in a large part, like kind of the 2 cornerstones for that historic designation are Bunkelowen and the Thomas House. Lots of other things obviously go into that, but those 2 things are like 2 critical aspects of that and set the tone of that entire Frostwoods neighborhood. I know it says in there that the full Thomas family supports. I did know only 2 members of the family supported it against the designation. I think it would be a huge loss if that property ended up getting torn down and rebuilt as something outside of that historic.
Okay. Thank you, Kurt. Next up is Ann. Could you state, since you're a Madison resident as well, Ann, could you state your address and your...
Yes, my name is Ann Weidlich. I'm a Madison resident, 2150 Lakeland Avenue. But with regard to this situation, I am the president of Historic Blooming Grove Historical Society. We run the Dean House that's across the street from Monona, but we are very interested in the history of Blooming Grove. And as you well know, Monona used to be a part of the history of Blooming Grove. So as a historical society, needless to say, we are very interested in historical properties, both in Blooming Grove and Monona. So we definitely support the nomination of the Thomas House to be a Monona landmark. It is a very unique architectural style of which Monona should be very, very proud to have several international style houses. And so this is just one example of a very important architectural style. And we certainly believe in, and hearing that it is a part of this neighborhood historic designation that's coming up, we doubly wish and hope that you will vote for the Thomas House to be a Monona landmark.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thank you, Ann. Next up, I have Matt Arrow.
Hi, Matt R.O., 110 Henry Circle. I live in the Frostwoods neighborhood, and I moved to Monona because of a very special house. This is a tale of two homes that I hope you'll see the comparison to. I discovered Monona was a wonderful place after I moved here. The house that I bought was an international style house, and it was designed by the same architects that designed the Thomas House. And when I saw it was on the market, I immediately understood the significance of it and the importance of this house as a unique property. But I really didn't know how special it was until I moved in. And nor did I realize just how important it was, the layout of it, the design, the beauty of it. Like the Thomas House, it was published in an international journal in the 1930s in an architectural magazine. The house was on the market for exactly 1 day, and it had a lot of interest in it. And the sellers were quite happy when we closed a month later. Although not everyone appreciates an original like mine and the Thomas House, there are no problems finding interested parties for these homes. The house was so well designed, I don't think I could do any better, and I've dedicated much time to the rehabilitation of this home. And I ultimately decided to list it on the National and State Register of Historic Places. I have no fear about what such a designation does to the value of my home, because some of the things are just more important than the payout and maximizing the dollar value. I support the landmark designation for these reasons. I also wish to speak to the lot division, although I know that's not on the agenda potentially tonight. The sellers of my home sought to maximize their income, just like the Thomas House, by dividing the lot, which resulted in an awkward geometric relationship to the divided lot and its new neighbor. The Thomas House has a unique placement and orientation that will sit awkwardly with any new home to the south of it. Short of the city denying the lot division, I hope that the new owner will purchase the house and the lot to preserve views to and from the home. But the city should deny the lot division if you can, due to the adverse effect a new home would have on the Thomas House. Regardless of the outcome today, I sincerely hope that the Thomas House will have a new owner that appreciates its design and champions its unique character. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I believe that we have at least one person online.
Yep. Ms. Fox Garen, yep.
Yes. So Erica?
Did you want to have her speak when it comes up on the agenda, since she's the applicant?
She said she wanted to speak during
Okay.
appearances. I mean,
Okay,
Eric, it's up to
that's
you.
fine.
If you would prefer to wait, since you're the applicant, you can wait, but if you'd like to speak to her appearances, you can do that too.
Wherever you would like me, whatever makes sense.
Well, you're going to speak specifically to the application or more generally about the house? It doesn't, it's really
I
your
think probably
call.
more generally, just sort of backgrounds of the nomination.
Okay. Then
If that's
if it's more about the application and the background, then I would say you could certainly speak during the discussion. How's that work?
It's more of a 3-minute
Okay.
thing.
Okay, all right.
Why don't I just
Then
get
go
it
right
out of the way?
ahead. That's why we have appearances. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry I didn't pre-register. I didn't quite figure out how to do that.
yeah.
Also, I'm coming to you from across Lake Michigan, so Wi-Fi is questionable. Anyway,
Yeah, could
So
you
my name is
make
Erica
sure to
Fox.
introduce yourself and your address?
okay. My name is Erica Fox Gehrig, and I live at 1811 Vilas Avenue in Madison. And I've been in Madison for 25 years, but was raised in Monona. While I was as a resident of Madison, I served on the Madison Landmarks Commission for over 12 years. But growing up in Monona, in my family's home called Bungalowan, is what made me a historic preservationist. In May, I submitted the Monona Landmark nomination for the C. Wright and Edna S. Thomas House built in 1931 at 5903 Winnequa Road with help from members of the community and architectural historians. It's come to my attention that the Thomas House has just been sold, so please take into account that the following statement was written before that, and I think it should still be part of the record. In full transparency, I wrote the landmark nomination when I learned the house might be for sale to try to save this Beatty and Beatty designed international style house from demolition. The Thomas House is faithfully cared for it since 1931, but one can't predict the intentions of a new owner, especially with 3 lakefront lots. The best case scenario is that an international style fan would come forward and restore the house, taking advantage of the historic tax credits available for restoration within the Frostwoods National Register Historic District, which hopefully will be soon approved by the National Park Service. Last winter, I learned that Bill Thomas, the owner of the Thomas House, had moved out, and I connected with his daughter about that because just months before, my mom also had to leave her home of 50 years, her family home, and I know how hard that can be on a family. My mom, Jan Marshall Fox, and Bill Thomas grew up together running around the Frostwoods neighborhood with neighbors and cousins, and then they lived on opposite sides of Frostwoods Beach for decades, both of their parents' houses. Our family house, Bungalowan, is a Monona landmark and is also listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It was built by my great-grandparents in 1911 and again in 1932, and my husband and I will be the next stewards of Bungalowan, and will share our restoration plans with the Monona Landmarks Commission and the Frostwoods Homes Association. So there aren't many landmarks in this relatively new community, the city of Monona, which is rich in 1930s and 1950s architecture, and landmarking is often misunderstood. As seen in the Monona Landmarks book, first put together in the 70s, which I hope there's some copies of sitting around. They should be orange or beige. There are fewer than 10 private residences in Monona that are currently landmarked, and at least 3 of those are listed on Zillow with values of over $2 million. It's also several public structures and 3 Ho-Chunk mound groups. The Thomas House is mentioned in this book along with its other Beatty and Strang designed international style neighbors. So I hope you'll find that this landmark nomination, along with the support and the testimony of the experts and that seen in national publications, will make clear that the Thomas House is worthy of Monona Landmark designation. Thank you for your consideration and your time, and I will stick around for questions if necessary.
Thank you, Erica. And that takes me to Chad Vogel. Chad, please come down. Welcome.
Hello, Chad Vogel, 815 Prospect Place, Madison. I am the person that has an accepted offer on this home. And I recently sent a letter to the Common Council to table this conversation for a later date. One of the reasons I did that is that there is a few things kind of in the air here, which my offer is made on Lot A of this property. So depending on whether it's split or divided, that does affect my contract and would make it much more difficult. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of this, but to agree with everyone here, I'm in favor of this being a historical landmark, and I look forward to working with the people in the neighborhood, like Matt, who I didn't know had a international style house, who I've known in the past. But I think it's important to just kind of understand like where Aaron, my partner, and I kind of came from. We had no real intention of buying a house at this point, and to be honest, this is pretty high as far as a price for my means. But as Gene, who my realtor is also here, we look at houses every once in a while, and they're always weird. And I saw this listed, and I'm like, well, that's weird. I should go look at it. And, you know, we looked through the house the first time we were there and, you know, asked the pertinent questions and look around, and as you do when you're doing a showing. And then Jean had to go, and I was like, hey, do you mind if we hang around for a minute, and just so Aaron and I could stand in the yard and talk about it a little bit. And we both were like, do we love this house? And that sort of thing, like, I'm old enough to understand that, like, those parts of your life are important, and those things don't happen very often. And we're enamored with it, to be honest. I think it's something that, you know, maybe it's not a forever house for us because we don't have any children, and it's a pretty, you know, sizable house already. But I think making the changes to make it that it's a house that nobody ever wants to tear down again, I think is the most important part of it, or at least doesn't want to tear it down for the next 50 years or so. I mean, again, we'll all be long gone, and somebody's probably going to have these discussions again. So I'm probably a little over time already. But I just want to say that what I'm looking for is like a partnership with certainly the Monona Lands Commission. Part of the reason I said that, I didn't, you know, we put an offer in on Tuesday and got accepted on Thursday, and now it's Monday. So not a lot of research time exactly for me. And I'm also a restaurant owner, and as Patrick knows, it's gets a little hectic on the weekends. So, you know, I looked at it and said, oh, okay, Monona, I didn't know that Monona's designation was similar to Madison's, where you have authority actually over grants and things like that. And that's something that I would very much look for, and I thought I would be more submitting to the state, and then I didn't know what Monona's specific designations were. And, so I am 100% for it. There's some complications, which is why I asked for the tabling, because I do have an accepted offer, but you know how those things go, like it's contingent on financing. So, so I'm just trying to, you know, maybe not make it all fall through, but also at the same time, the secondary lot piece is important to me, mostly to the fact that, like, I didn't make a contract for that. So there would have to be, of course, more discussion, and you know, I'm not sure what they want to sell that lot for if that does happen. So
Okay.
I'm not sure I'd be in the running. So
Right.
that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Question?
Yep.
Sorry.
Could you repeat what you said about the lot split and how that might affect your thinking?
Well, it was very clear in the real estate listing that it was for lot 1 of this property, and they showed I think the proposed survey from the city of Monona, and so we wanted to make, we really wanted the house, so we wanted to make very specific on what we were offering for, right? So we wanted an accepted offer, so that's how we went about it. So specifically in our real estate contract, and I don't know if you might want to ask Jean, maybe he has a little bit more information on this, my realtor, but we offered on that. So the contract is, my offer is for lot 1 of that property, not both.
Right, so
not
you're
combined.
you're referring to the new lines, which haven't been approved
Correct.
yet, but that's the
Which
way
were
the
included in the
realtor was- right.
proposed documents, but
You understand that, right?
split has taken place?
No.
That split has not taken place, but the realtor has advertised that split, and it's been surveyed. All 3 lots together have been surveyed, anticipating a potential split.
And so you're wondering what that lot split might look like?
well, more I was speaking to the point that the reason I asked it to be tabled, this vote to be tabled, was because this is kind of up in the air for me. So, you know, respectfully, like, because I'm in favor of this nomination, like, I would normally say, like, yes, but because these things are in limbo, tabling it to me was the safest way for the council to protect, because I think kind of most people are in agreement that they want to save this building, right? So that the council has the opportunity, like, for instance, if my offer falls through, you get this, if tabling a conversation just brings it, if I remember the Robert's Rules of Order, just brings it back up every meeting. So that if my offer fell through and then this was on the open market again, you could essentially just take the vote at that time. Yeah, at any month.
So you're asking
Okay.
for a delay?
Rick,
I have
Yeah.
a question.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
Well,
this is
that's-
appearances.
Might be
so
more
I would just-
procedural as well.
Yeah, so maybe we could, since this is on the agenda tonight, the questions could be asked.
I will stay
of him
to
later.
speak
You
if needed.
Yeah,
You can ask them later?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That would be my preference, because, again, we're not supposed to get into question mode during, I appreciate the questions. I'm not at all shutting down the questions. I'm just saying, let's wait until we get to it on the agenda. Okay?
Gotcha.
Okay, anybody else? We have one more appearance that is not on the Thomas House. It would be on the River Place CSM. Dan Day. Hi, Dan, welcome.
This is also on the agenda, Mayor, so. Do you want me to speak now or during the
Yeah.
agenda item?
That's up to you.
I can wait.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Then we will wait. And so unless I see anyone else up on the screen,
No one else online, Mayor.
hmm?
No one else online.
No one else on the screen, so we will close the appearance section. There is no public hearing. Consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. That takes us to item G, City Council action items, unfinished business. 1A, consideration of resolution 25-8-2819, approving a memorandum of understanding with firefighters local 311 regarding mandatory overtime from the Finance and Personnel Committee. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Do I have a
Second.
second? And I have a second. Any further discussion on
Who
this?
the second was on that?
Patrick.
Patrick?
Patrick was the second?
I'm not as efficient as Aline is.
Yeah, yeah, for those of you that haven't noticed, Neil is taking notes tonight, so if we could just slow down a little bit, that might be
Went down
really
a little
helpful.
bit, exactly.
Yeah, okay, so, do any other questions, comments about, this particular memorandum of understanding, this resolution? Hearing none. This is not a roll call, correct? Hmm?
It's a voice vote. Yep.
Yeah, voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Takes us to GB, G1B, consideration of resolution 25-8-2821, designating the property at 5903 Winnequa Road a local landmarks from the Landmarks Commission.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Move approval, and we have a second? Okay. Thor?
Thanks, Council. I know this is the second read of this, but I'll go through the full details of the staff memo again for everyone who's here and online. So the property at 5903 Winnequa Road, also known as the Charles Wright and Edna S. Thomas House, has been nominated a local landmark by Miss Erica Fox Gehrig. The home is located within the Frost Woods neighborhood and was designed by the noted architects Hamilton and Gwynedd Beatty and built in 1931. It's the first example of the international style of architecture in Wisconsin, for which the Frost Woods neighborhood is particularly known. The Thomas House exemplifies the international style of architecture, which features clean lines, rectangular and cubic forms, and minimal decorative embellishments. The home has been under the ownership of the Thomas House since it was built by Charles and Edna Thomas. Edna was a notable UW-Madison English professor. And following Charles and Edna, their son Bill and his wife Kathy, the late Kathy Thomas, who served on city council for 37 years, lived in the home. The structure itself has been nominated a landmark, and a landmark designation can be placed on any site, natural or improved, as long as it It meets one of 5 standards, which are to exemplify or reflect the broad cultural, political, economic, or social history of the nation, state, or community, is associated with the lives of important persons or with important events in national, state, or local history, if it embodies the distinguishing characteristics of an architectural type inherently valuable for a study of a period, style, method of construction, or of indigenous materials or craftsmanship, if it represents the notable work of a master builder, designer, or architect, or lastly, if it exhibits important archaeological or anthropological significance. Once designated, a landmark is subject to the protections and provisions listed in Chapter 480-20 of the Zoning Code. That includes the requirement to obtain a certificate of appropriateness issued by the Landmarks Commission prior to the approval of a zoning permit or building permit for exterior work, the need for a certificate of appropriateness issued by the Landmarks Commission prior to demolition, and the duty to maintain the landmark in good repair. There are instances in which the Landmark Commission can grant a variance from the historic preservation standards listed in 480-20. I won't get into those details because that's more of a landmarks matter. But one of those is an economic hardship variance. Monona's historic preservation ordinance was rewritten in 2018, which allowed the city to become a certified local government. That makes the city eligible for Historic Preservation Fund subgrants from the Federal Historic Preservation Fund. One requirement for the certified local government status is that local landmark designation does not require property owner consent, or that the historic preservation, or that historic property owners can opt out of a local historic designation. The Thomas House has been nominated for its conformance with the first 4 of those designation criteria I listed previously. That's for exemplifying the cultural or social history of the community. That's because the Thomas House was the first international style house built in the Frostwoods neighborhood and exemplifies the social history of the Frostwoods neighborhood itself. For its association with Edna Shepherd Thomas, the notable professor at UW-Madison in the field of writing instruction, for exemplifying the international style of architecture, and lastly for its representative of the work of master architects Hamilton and Gwynedd Beatty. A public hearing was held before the Landmarks Commission on July 15th, 2025. The public hearing was noticed in the paper via Class 1 notice, and the property owner was notified by certified mail. 5 residents registered in support at that meeting, and the commission unanimously recommended approval. As discussed earlier, the property owner has submitted a land division request to the city planner to combine the existing 3 parcels into 2 via certified survey map. That's being reviewed separately from the landmarks designation itself. I'd also want to just clarify, there's been some discussion about the historic district nomination and the landmark designation. So I think the best way to think about it is both of those processes have a goal of historic preservation. Our landmark process is more of a guardrail, whereas the federal historic district would be more of an incentive for historic preservation. So the historic district, with our certified local government grant that we received last year, we've submitted a nomination to the National Park Service and to the state to put the Frostwoods Historic District on the National Register of Historic Places. If it is added to the list, then any contributing property in that district would be eligible for historic preservation tax credits. And the Thomas House is a contributing property currently. So, but so there's no restrictions or limitations placed on the property through that process. But our local process doesn't come with any incentives like the federal designation would. So council should consider the landmark nomination form and the supplemental materials included in the packet, and consider if the property meets the landmark standards outlined in 480-20 of the Code of Ordinances, and the council can approve with conditions, or deny the landmark designation. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. As this council knows, we've all received numerous emails as well. We don't have an exact count, but we will get that count from individuals who are not in attendance tonight in advance of this meeting, other historians, et cetera. I mean, we'll make sure that those are entered into the record, in terms of overall record. With that, I'm going to open it up for, we have a motion on the floor.
We do.
I'm going to open it up for additional questions, including of the individual who has an offer on the house. So, Rick, this would be if you have questions.
I'll let Doug go, he's got a hand up.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, just as chair of the Landmarks Committee, just wanted to add a little bit to what Thor said. I mean, as far as whether this property meets the requirements of the ordinance, I think it's clear. I called it a slam dunk at the committee meeting. It was built in 1931, which I would note is actually older than the village of Monona. It was still the town of Blooming Grove at the time. So also, among all the other things, I think it's worth pointing out that Gwynedd Beatty was a rarity as a woman architect at that time, particularly in the Madison area. Then I guess the other thing, I know that it's several of the comments who have been opposed to this process related to the timing of the application, and suggested that it would have been nicer to wait to wait until to make the formal application. I think the problem is, and I think it's great, by the way, that we have a prospective owner who is interested in preserving it. Because we could be sitting here tonight with a prospective owner who didn't want to preserve it and intended to tear it down. So I think, to me, the timing made total sense, that it was known. I didn't know it, but apparently it was known that it was going on the market, that was the time when, if you needed to take action, initiate action at that point. And this leads me to the request to table, and I guess my concern on that is not with what Mr. Vogel might do, but rather if that falls through, if that purchase offer falls through, they could get a new accepted offer of somebody who doesn't want to keep the house. They could come in, as soon as they owned it, and get a demolition permit. And once that's granted, and Bill can correct me if I'm wrong, then we couldn't run in and say, oh, wait, we're going to landmark it now. If the demolition permit would still be viable, enforceable on that person's behalf. I know it may seem a little unlikely that those things might happen, but that's really my biggest concern with tabling it. If it falls through, we'll get somebody else who wants to buy it who doesn't want to keep the house. So that's what I got.
Other comments, questions of Thor or about this? Yeah, Rick. Is this a question for Chad, or is this a question for Thor?
It's not a question, I was gonna
Okay,
have some
or comment.
comments.
Okay.
Like Doug, I agree that this is a slam dunk of a landmark ordinance, landmark nomination. It met 4, maybe 5 of the criteria specified in the ordinance, so there shouldn't be any question about whether it qualifies. But if we deny this nomination, we will do harm to Landmarks ordinance and the ability of the Landmarks Commission to do its work going forward. If we grant this personal request from the owner's representative, how can we say no to anyone else going forward, since it's our legal obligation to provide equal protection under the law? If we deny this landmark nomination due to the owner's concerns, we risk losing our status as a certified local government and consequently our eligibility to apply for future funding. This funding to date has allowed us to conduct an architectural survey of the entire city, which then later laid the groundwork for the nomination for the Frostwoods neighborhood to the state and national register. If we lost our eligibility for funding, the commission would not be as successful as it has been to date. We should not graft our personal opinions onto the existing ordinance, as this would exceed our legal authority. The ordinance was passed unanimously by the Common Council, many of whom are still on the council today. You voted for it then and should support it now. The landmark ordinance was designed to protect the public interest in terms of preserving the community's character. It's my understanding that Monona has lost 4 to 5 of the international homes of the 13 initially built. If we lost this, it would be a major blow. Point out the ordinance does not prevent demolition. It grants the commission a 6-month window to try to find an alternative. If no solution is found, demolition may proceed. There are also economic hardship provisions in the ordinance, particularly in terms of a sale. So with that said, I would urge my colleagues to vote affirmatively for this resolution and to allow the Landmarks Commission to do its work when it comes to owners' concerns regarding economic hardship and possibly requests for demolition. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions of Chad? The only reason why I was asking is that I would ask him to come to the mic, because that's what, so if you have.
Yeah, I would like to ask just one question.
Okay. Chad, thank you.
What was my question? Going back to the split, you've asked for the motion before us to be tabled or perhaps postponed to the next meeting.
Mhm.
Do you foresee what the timetable might look like for you to get more comfortable with the landmark situation?
It would probably have to be the October meeting. My closing date, as it stands now, is the 18th of September. So, yeah, we're kind of in the pinch there. That being said, like, as I stated before, like, I support this. It's mostly, what I'm saying is, like, if, I'm more than happy if you guys vote yes tonight, because I think it should be the landmark. It might complicate things, but we can also just let the chips fall where they may as well. So, you know, I'm not in charge of who's cutting the lines and why that happens or anything like that. So there's also appraisal too. So, but you know, I think the more important part is that this architecture should be saved. The secondary point is that I would like to be the one to do it and do the work, but also at the same time, that's the ultimate goal is still to protect this architecture from being demolished. And I think that's why that's why this whole process went into the motion. And I understand there's, you know, probably some contention and some hubbub. I'm pretty new to this conversation. So if that's the ultimate goal, and passing this right now makes that the way, and then something happens and I'm not able to buy the house, the city of Monona still gets what ultimately they want. So So maybe I don't, but that's okay. Maybe they can find, maybe somebody else can, maybe there's another buyer that would like to do this. It seemed like I might have been the only one. I don't know that. I guess that's my answer.
Thank you.
Patrick?
A question for Chad. Are there like specific things that you're concerned that may happen if this occurs before your closing?
Well, it's just a simple matter of if the boundaries of the actual property change. I bet on what I assume was lot 1, I put that in the contracts of purchase.
Mhm.
So if now that it's that whole lot, that contract becomes null and void, and we'd have to start over. Do I know that I would want that much property? I'm sure there's a fair amount of taxes associated with that. And could I afford it? Like, unclear. So, it just, I would say it would drastically change what my current contractual agreement. Let's just put it that way.
Question for
I think
Bill?
would be, I was just going to say, I think it would be important for us to separate, as we have tried to do all along, the CSM from what is in front of us tonight. Those are, as has been reported by Thor on both occasions, those are two very distinct issues. And the second, and the CSM is something that is going to be decided administratively by the city. And the landmark designation is something that we decide as a council. And so if we are, my understanding, and Bill, I'm counting on you to correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that if we're voting on the landmark designation tonight, we're voting on the house. We're not voting on 3 lots, the whole area. We're voting on the house. It's the house, obviously there's a context of the land there, but we're voting on the house.
Can we ask, do we know timing of that decision by the city?
Yeah.
Or is that not able to be?
Defer to Director Plowman on that one, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks. So this went through the administrative review process. The decision has been shared with the applicant that this can proceed, and we're just waiting on final documents and signatures. So from the city's side, the verbal approval has been granted, but typically the city is the last signature on the document before it goes to Register of Deeds. So my suggestion to the applicant was prepare the documentation, and we will facilitate signatures. So that was shared late last week, and we've not seen that yet.
And the applicant, you're talking about the Thomas family?
Correct.
So then, Mr. Vogel, that question looks like it's been more or less resolved. Soon, yes.
And maybe Bill could address this question. If we landmark it first and then the CSM is approved, would that CSM approval have to go to the Landmarks Commission?
I want to make sure I understand right. So you're saying if you landmark the structure tonight,
Right.
and the CSM, then would that have to go to landmarks?
Right.
Well, the CSM has been, the city has a full and complete application.
Right.
So we're obligated to process that application under the status quo at the time of the application. So the answer would be no. It would be reviewed at the status it was in the pre-landmark stage. So it would not go to plan. It would not go to
Right.
landmarks.
And I thought you had, when I had emailed you about this earlier today, you'd indicated that if it were a zoning or building permit for exterior work, then it would need to go to landmarks, but a CSM is neither a zoning nor a building permit. not.
Correct.
So it's a land division.
Yep, because our ordinance calls for that to occur if somebody applies for a zoning or a building permit.
Patrick?
Okay.
A question for Attorney Cole as well. Going back to what Alder Bernstein mentioned, do we risk losing our authority if we were to entertain tabling this
Well,
until after closing?
Yeah, I mean, to Alder Wood's point, worst case scenario, and no disrespect to the individual here tonight at all, but theoretically, if you tabled it, you would have, anybody could submit an application, for a building permit. And then, just like with CSMs, we would be obligated to review that building permit at the law at the time it was submitted. So it wouldn't have been landmarked yet. So if the application was complete and otherwise complied with all of our requirements, we'd be obligated to issue that building permit. When it was raised, Doug raised it with me earlier today, and I tried to start thinking of ways that, we could mitigate that risk. And certainly the property owners could agree that the property would not be demolished, there would not be any application for a building permit for, say, 6 months or something like that. That, of course, would only be binding on the current owner and the prospective buyer. It wouldn't be, if his deal fell through and a new buyer came in, that agreement wouldn't be binding on him. So we would have to record a deed restriction to bind another buyer other than that buyer. But even then, it's sort of a toothless tiger, because if somebody demolished it anyway, notwithstanding the deed restriction, there wouldn't be much ramification to that. So I think Alder Wood's got a very good concern, again, worst case scenario, that if you did table it, theoretically, somebody could get a building permit in and you really wouldn't be able to stop it.
Even if obviously it takes time to close, but you can't get a building permit with an accepted offer, right?
Well, no, I mean.
So like if this deal were to fall through, just hypothetically, if this deal were to fall through and somebody else jumped in with an accepted offer, we would still have time to landmark it before the closing.
Unless the current owners
The current owners.
were the applicant for the demolition permit.
Okay.
Because you're right. If
Yeah.
I understand you're right, you're saying just because you have an accepted offer doesn't give you the right to apply for it. And that's accurate, yeah. It would have to come from the Thomases.
Okay.
And if I may, we wouldn't necessarily be privy to that information either. I mean, they have shared some information up till now, but they don't have any obligation to tell us anything,
We'd probably tell you right away.
Yeah. Well, okay. Fair point.
But if, it seems to me, though, to go back to that point, Bill, if aside from the Thomases themselves deciding to demolish or something, if this deal fell through and, somebody else stepped in, for us to rush and make it a landmark at that point, it seems to me, would leave us open to, I don't know, especially if it's somebody that doesn't want the house up. And it seems like we would be putting a block up at that point as a legal barrier up at that point.
But aren't we doing
would
that
not be.
right now, essentially? The same
Yeah.
thing?
But I mean, we could, say the deal fell through. There could be another offer submitted the next day.
Yeah.
Could be a cash offer. They could close the next day.
Mm.
That person could go from the title company to City Hall and submit a building permit. Again, it's worst
Gotcha.
case scenario, but it's kind of the world I work in.
I guess my concern is, you know, I don't want to feel like we're contributing to a potential new resident not being able to purchase because of what's happening, right? Because something may happen with a bank, with something might happen with an appraisal, something might happen with something else, and then I guess it's weighing. It's like I absolutely believe the house should be preserved, absolutely, without question. But I'm sensitive to the thought that I want to make sure that somebody who enjoys that house can actually purchase the house. You know?
And to that point, as you were talking, I was just thinking through, if there were a new buyer, the title company is going to submit a special assessment letter to the city before the closing. So the city clerk would know that there was a closing pending. I guess theoretically, if it were an all-cash deal, they could circumvent that. But the window of that happening without us knowing it would be exceedingly narrow, you know, which maybe to the mayor's point, you'd have to rush to have a special meeting or something like that, but you could do it, and the window would be very short for somebody to be able to get a building permit and demolish it. We couldn't foreclose that altogether, but I think to the extent your concern is to allow the prospective buyer some time, I think you can do that with minimal risk to the city. Or not to the city, but risk that the building would get demolished.
And it sounds like what we're saying, Doug, from where you're sitting with the CSM and Chad's concern, particularly around the lots, that we're going to have that buttoned up in pretty short order. We're just waiting for signatures.
It's in the applicant's court at this point.
Right.
But yes, from the city's perspective, it's complete and it's ready to be approved.
Right.
I guess this is a question for, could we actually, I'm just thinking out loud, this may be the dumbest statement I've ever made since I've been here, but is there a way to conditionally approve the landmark status upon, with a contingency that the lot division is executed in a certain amount of time?
Meaning that it's, the landmark designation does not occur until after the CSM is approved? No, that's surprisingly not a stupid statement.
Surprisingly? That sounds like an insult.
There we go. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if the applicant, if the land division sounds like it's really your main concern.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the largest concern.
Yeah.
So yeah, to your point, the council could do that, yeah. Brian's got his.
Sorry, Brian, yeah.
Not to sound insensitive, but the item on the agenda tonight is about the landmarks,
Correct.
not about an offer, although I welcome the offer. And it's not about the perspective of what happens if that offer falls through. I think we have.
I really have no standing.
Yep, we have a very solid application here.
Yes.
It should move forward. The solid application, to me, is regardless of the CSM split. I'd like to not see it split. But I understand where it sits in all of that, but to me,
Yep.
that's not the point of the application. The point of the application is
Correct.
for the historic relevance, and it clearly meets that, and I think we should move forward on that piece
Okay.
and let the other pieces fall where they may. Delaying it, I don't think is in the best interest at all.
Okay. You got it? So would you like to move the question, is what you're saying?
I'd like to ask the question.
Is this a voice vote or a roll call?
It's voice.
Voice? Yeah, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure. Okay. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Three to two.
Yep.
It passes.
3 to 2 it passes. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, takes us to new business. G2, new business consideration of ordinance 8-25-794, establishing a no parking here to corner at 6300 Bridge Road, brought forth by the Public Works Committee.
And obviously, Director Stefani is not here, so I will provide some brief introduction to it, and then we have the chief here as well if there's any specific questions. I believe the Public Safety Committee reviewed this complaint as more of a vision issue with parking cars near the intersection and not being able to see and not being able to feel that there could make a safe turn on that route. So the committee, Public Safety Committee, did review the complaint at its June 25th meeting and recommends that it be signed for no parking. With that, certainly have more details, and the chief is certainly available to answer any questions.
I would just add in that it started at Public Safety, it came to Public Works, it was unanimous at Public Works.
Thank you.
And that's where it's moving forward.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, B, consideration of ordinance. Is there anything else we need to say there on that?
I would just note, Mayor,
Yeah.
that just in reviewing it, the section numbers it goes 1, 3, 4. So before the second read, we should
Make sure the
make
numbers-
sure that's numbered correctly.
Thank you. Consideration of ordinance 825793, establishing parking restrictions at various locations to accommodate trash collection from the Public Works Committee.
Yep, I will see if Alder Holmquist will correct me if I'm wrong on this one.
No worries,
There have
hopefully
been multiple, these multiple areas were discussed directly with our provider, with Pelletieri.
Yeah.
They've identified several issues where they were having, essentially having issues with parked vehicles while they were trying to do collections on Fridays. So they have identified these areas, and this have been presented to the Public Works Committee, and I assume approved unanimously.
It was.
So,
Okay. Any
Can I ask a
questions on that?
question?
Yeah.
Just wondering if anyone, I'm not sure if anyone knows, but is this an issue unique to Pelletieri, or has this been an issue forever and just Pelletieri is now bringing it up?
This, obviously, Pelletieri is a recent new provider on this one. I suspect if we asked our former provider, they would be like, oh, yeah, well, we had all kinds of issues having to skip people because they weren't there. Certainly Director Stefani can certainly answer that question when he's back, but I suspect that these areas have probably been an issue. The trucks are pretty same size, so I'm assuming both providers would say that they've had equal trouble. But Pelletieri, with their technology and ability to actually record in their truck, they actually, if they skip someone, and they actually have a video recording of why they're not doing it, so a resident can call and express a concern that their garbage wasn't picked up, and they will fire up the video and say, well, this is why. So I'm pretty sure most of these areas have documented evidence of the concerns.
Yeah. Patrick?
Just a quick, I just remember from my time on Public Works, these areas were also problems for snow removal
Yeah.
too. And
Yeah.
I'm assuming they still are, Brian?
Yep.
So
Yep.
is that part of this as well, or?
No,
No.
this was clearly focused on just
Okay.
the trash and recycling pickup, and there were concerns from previous vendors. And mainly it was missed pickups.
Gotcha.
Pelletieri's coming forward with specific requests regarding this. The other part that came up that some might wonder either today or tomorrow is like what happens when trash gets pushed off. If I recall correctly, it was either 3 or 4 dates that happens in a given year. And we felt that was a fairly small enough number that we wouldn't worry about the restriction only being on the Friday for those 3 or 4 occurrences. And we would work with those residents for direct communication on voluntarily no parking on that alternative date, likely being the Saturday. So that was the plan for Saturday pickup.
Sorry, and then I have one other question. Just in my experience with Pelletieri, they come pretty regularly around the same time, like
Yeah.
they're pretty on schedule, so I'm just wondering if it has to be the full business hour Friday, or if they proposed any, like, just for 3 hours of this day, so it wasn't impacting the whole day.
The proposal was for the full day because although they might pick up routinely right now, that is not obligated within the contract, and that could change. And so they didn't want to, we wanted to leave that opportunity to be open. Likely this would be a complaint-driven enforcement. So for example, if you lived in one of these areas, your trash was picked up and you moved it back to the curb and parked there, my guess is no one would be calling for PD to come enforce.
And I would also say that the on the weeks where we have both recycling and trash, it wouldn't necessarily be a tiny window, because when they're doing both, they tend to be, I mean, they're not as spread out as they used to be.
Yeah.
But it's still spread out, yeah.
Question for Chief, quick. Just to dovetail off of what Brian mentioned, if somebody were to put their car back after trash had already been picked up and PD was called because someone parked in that area by someone, would we be issuing tickets?
Depends.
Just curious.
It's at our discretion at that point, but we like to be reasonable, but we also, I mean, you're making a decision potentially on what the ordinance will be and what the postings will be, and we enforce the ordinance.
Okay.
I can say if a citation were issued, it would come to my office then for prosecution. And many times we have parking, not many, not a lot of them are issued, but the few that are issued over the years, I've had people with what I thought were justifiable explanations, and I would dismiss the tickets.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Our officer, just on that note, unless we know that trash has already been picked up because of what we're seeing out there, especially our community service officer, it's likely the sign's there, the car's there, there's a ticket on the windshield.
Okay.
I'll just say, unless we have additional information that's obvious, that's likely what's going to happen in our enforcement lately.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? Again, this is nothing here to start for immediate approval, so you're welcome to continue to ask questions between now and our next meeting. Number C, consideration of resolution 25-82824, approving participation in the Dane County Urban County Consortium, DCUCC, from the city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. This is actually a renewal of something we have already signed up for previously. It's a little bit under a different name. The short version is this consortium is related to federal home and CDBG funds. So it allows us to be an applicant for that funding. Essentially, there is no specific requirement other than to have the consortium in place to do that. Financial obligations only would occur if there was we were awarded funds and there was a match requirement. But that does not, obviously, as much as we wish this automatically guaranteed us funding, that does not happen that way. But it does make us eligible for that. But the one question that I did send to Attorney Cole was making sure that we did not, there was some language related to the authorities related to our housing authority in our CDA and what their powers were. We believe the only time that applies, and Bill, certainly correct me if I'm wrong, is only when we are applying for those funds that the county would essentially be acting as our housing authority in that case when we would be applying for funding and accepting an award. So all other statutory authorities of our CDA as a housing authority would remain in place. So we were actually going to ask for this on consent agenda because it's something we had previously, but wanted to make sure that was clear regarding our housing authority. So.
Okay. And item number D, is that a doodle on your sheet, or are you hoping for immediate approval?
Director Plowman has made the request here right before the meeting started here, so.
Okay.
Wait, are we done with the?
Is there anything else? Are there any questions on the,
Anything else on the Urban Consortium?
No, it made me feel nostalgic to see Rob Call's name on the 2003 original order.
Yep.
Okay, so as I glanced over to Neil's, there was like this little asterisk that he doodled, so that's what I was referring to as it relates to number D, which is consideration of resolution 25-82822, approval of certified survey map, CSM to combine part of Lot 5 and Lot 5 of River Place plat and Lots 1 and 2 of CSM 7625 at 100-300 River Place, put forward by the Plan Commission, and I believe Mr. Plowman is going to explain to us why he would like to take this out of order.
Correct, Mayor.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor. So the reason for this, it should have been on the agenda in the first place as a request for one read. Apologies for that not being the case. It's really the timeline for this. The applicant is looking to move very quickly, actually seeking demo permits and to be starting as soon as the day after Labor Day. So really looking to move pretty quickly here. This would be a part of it. There are still some edits to be made and things before signatures could be given, and the recording could take place as well. So certainly if the council deems it appropriate, it could be 2 reads, but this has come through Plan Commission, Public Works, as well as here to council. So that's the reason for the request for 1 read.
So I have a motion to suspend the rules and take this out of order.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do I have a motion to approve
Move
the
approval.
resolution?
I'll second.
Did you get the first?
Hold on, yep, exactly. Go back to,
Yeah. Should
But
hit the
before you
record
vote,
meeting.
I'm looking at the resolution, it does say, Plan Commission condition approval on me examining some things. I have not examined those. This resolution conditions the CSM approval on the same things. So I'm not aware of what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes,
We can
and
talk
you
about
will
it later.
soon.
That's all
right, very soon.
I mean, isn't that typical of most attorneys?
so what was the motion and second on this?
I guess I have to take what I give.
Things are getting rough here.
And who was the second on the suspension of the rules? Rachel, thank
Yeah,
you.
Rachel suspended.
Thank you, Alder Kugel.
No,
So
No,
we-
I second,
The
motion
approval.
to approve.
That,
Oh.
yeah, she's, sorry, yeah,
It was
she seconded the
Patrick and
motion.
I for
Patrick, okay,
the suspension and.
that's suspension. Okay, so now for the second, the
Okay.
actual approval motion was first and second,
me-
please?
Me and then Rachel.
One and Alder Kugel. There we go. All right, good to go.
Okay. So, now, discussion, any discussion on this particular resolution, now that we're through?
If I could, Mayor, I can address
Yes.
Attorney Cole's question. So, as way of background, the Plan Commission, there was some discussion about the actual location of the boundary lines. There's a portion there which is pretty close to the building, and I believe there were questions about access between the buildings. Let's say the phase development were to be 2 different owners, for example, or something like that, so the shared access. I absolutely should have shared that with you sooner. I have the materials that I can pass along. If that would be a reason for it to delay to a second read, I would certainly entertain that, just obviously to make sure that you're comfortable with it.
No, I mean, it's fine doing it this way. I just point out more for the applicant.
Okay.
that
Yeah,
If it's conditionally approved, then I review it and find something untoward, then we're back here again.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
We've done many of these agreements over the years on multi-lots and CSM situations like this, and the attorney who's preparing it has done many, many, many of them, so we're just taking into account the commentary that we heard at the Plan Commission and making sure we got it involved, and I've seen a couple of drafts of it already, and it should be prepared to get on your guys' desks very soon.
Who's your lawyer?
What's that?
Who's your lawyer?
It's Greg Paradise.
Okay, yeah, he's done a few.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and since, Dan, you did opt to wait until now, is there anything else that you wanted to say to the council on this particular?
Just available for questions, just, one of the small technical parts of this whole thing to put the big piece of the puzzle together. And it's getting there, getting very, very close, so we're excited to get this thing moving forward.
Great. Yes, Rachel.
I'm wondering, I guess I'm having a hard time seeing what this change is.
I can
Yeah.
bring it up on the
Can you
screen,
bring
I
it up
can
on the
point it
screen?
out what's going on.
Is it in the packet?
There's currently,
Yeah, oh, yeah, the survey's in the packet.
it's a very confusing situation. I've spent many hours explaining to many different people, mainly attorneys and owners and that sort of thing.
Is this the existing? It's
I know this takes
So-
a second.
page 63 and 64.
Yeah, page 63. So effectively, there are 4 lots right now that make up these 2 buildings, through these 2 buildings.
So it's lot 1, 2,
We're creating new lot 1 and 2 of a new CSM number that's to be
Okay.
numbered yet
Is there
once we
an actual
record it,
visual
yeah.
in the packet?
And there is
Yeah.
2 underlying
63,
lots,
64.
CSM lots, lot 1 and 2 of 7625, which are on the
yeah,
eastern side of that. And then there is lot 6 of the River Place plat, which is on the western side. And then sandwiched in between those is a part of lot 5 of the River Place CSM, River Place plat. So some of the things that were done back in the mid-90s, we wouldn't do today with how that was divided. So this is really a cleanup CSM is what it boils down to. in the end of the day.
And I can give background too, that this is a approved general development plan for a phased redevelopment of this as two buildings, two multifamily buildings. The proposed lot 2, so the western of the two, which would be closest to the pediatric dental, would be the first to redevelop. There's 125 units that have been approved there. And the boundary that you see is effectively breaking out the existing office building, which would remain on lot 1, and then lot 2 would be the multifamily building that would be under construction.
Again, it is up on the screen now, so.
So lot 5 stays unchanged?
No, lot 5 is going away.
Okay.
There'll be 2 lots, lot 1 and lot 2 of the new CSM company. So this is the building that's going to remain for now, and then this is the existing building that's coming down. This is lot 1 and 2 of CSM 7625. This is lot 6 in its entirety of the River Place plat, and this is a portion of lot 5 that's left in between those two divisions, 2 lots of what's left here. So we're creating 2 lots then. One is going to be like this. This is basically the split line. Lot 1, lot 2 of the new CSM.
Got it. Rachel, would you rather he go over and point at that,
That one?
on
I'm
that
sorry,
side,
did you
so
not
you
see-
can,
No, no,
oh,
I
okay,
saw
you
that
can see it,
part.
okay.
Am I seeing this right, though, that the new lot 2 border will be like directly on the existing building?
It's within 2 feet of it, yes.
Okay.
And that's why we've got the shared use agreements, because if they need to replace their siding or do something on their lawn, or that's why you put those shared use. And plus, it's a cross-access easement too, so travel from one parking lot to another parking lot, very common in these situations. So that will detail maintenance requirements and access and all those sort of fun things.
And then can I ask just one question? Why does this lot change come to council versus the one we were previously talking about with the Thomas House not?
Absolutely.
Great questions.
Yes.
That's a great question. I was asking the same thing earlier.
So I think it's about 6 or 8 months ago, the ordinance was revised for the land division section of the city's ordinance, and specifically minor land divisions, which are those that meet the lot dimensional standards and things like that for single and 2-family districts, which the Thomas House is located within, can be approved administratively. All other districts, which this falls within, this is more of a commercial district. This requires sort of the standard review process. I will note that the ordinance did streamline that this was 1 meeting at Planning Commission and does allow for 1 at Council as well, that previously it was 2 at both of those bodies. So it did still speed that process up a little bit, but keeps that review at each. And we did bring it to Public Works. That's sort of a discretionary option, but we did it here just given how many easements. There's kind of a lot going on there, so thought it was best that group see it as well.
Other questions, comments? No? Okay. With that,
Yeah, we just need to go ahead and have a voice vote on that there.
Yep.
since it is-
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, appreciate you coming.
Have a good evening.
It takes us to item E, consideration of resolution 25-8-2823, approving the Plan Commission recommendation for Broadway Senior PIP by North Point Development Corporation, put forward by the Plan Commission, and I do believe Sean is, yes. Hi, Sean.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me.
As well. So, do you want to go ahead, Doug, first?
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, this is a precise implementation plan for the development of 55 units of age-restricted multifamily housing that will be utilizing WHEDA tax credits. This is located on East Broadway, just to the west of the recently completed Broadway Lofts project that included both the apartment building as well as 2 separate townhome buildings as well. So a general development plan for this project was approved by the City Council back in March of this year. Since then, the applicant has successfully received or been awarded the WHEDA tax credits and has since returned for sort of the more detailed specifics, which are part of the precise implementation plan, the PIP. So the the Plan Commission at their August 11th meeting did review this and approved the PIP with 24 conditions of approval that you'll see included within the meeting packet. One thing that I will note for this is that the GDP also includes some commercial closest to East Broadway, 2,400 square feet. That is not included within this development. So the GDP is more of the master plan, and the commercial component is not pursuing at this point, but the plans do include kind of the groundwork for it, so the pad would be ready. So the parking lot, the curb, all of those improvements, some of the demolition would all take place, and would be ready for that user to come in once that user is identified. The final thing that I would point out is this is located within redevelopment area and TID number 6, and that was approved back in May of 2010. As part of that, any development, any approval, or any construction, substantial remodeling must be authorized by both the CDA and City Council. And so looking at that, the CDA will be reviewing that at that August 26th meeting. I did put that in the resolution, expecting 2 reads, of course, so the second council action would come after that. As far as the project plan, it calls for sort of proactive redevelopment and revitalization of the area. Redevelopment area in TID number 6, it's the clinics, so both the UW as well as the Merida clinics, and it was really looking for that revitalization. I will say back in 2010 that the sort of predicted land use, the future land use, was deemed to be commercial, and I'd say that was a part of the planning discussion for this as well. From a staff level, I would say the inclusion of the commercial at the street closest to East Broadway is both beneficial for the residents that will be there, but also for continuing that commercial core there as well. And so I would say sort of the GDP helps kind of tie back into that project plan as well. But I did put that here, working with City Attorney Cole, added that as part of this, that the authorization would be included within the resolution as well. I've asked the applicant this evening to sort of share just a quick overview, and I think he's going to be able to screen share as well. Thank you.
Sean?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, do you need to, if he wants to, I assume you want to pull drawings up on the screen, or what would you like to do?
Nope.
Yeah, I'm going to just share a couple of the drawings that were in the packet.
Okay.
Doug did a great overview. We did bring this through for the use approvals, which was required of our tax credit application through WIDA. We were awarded tax credits, so now we're back trying to get the final approvals to move this project forward. The intent is to start construction somewhere between November and March of 2026, so November of this year or March of next year, just depending on how the rest of the funding all comes together. And let me just see if I can share my screen. So as Doug had mentioned, what we're here to discuss tonight is a PIP approval for the 55-unit building, approximately 1210 East Broadway. We did recently complete our 75-unit townhome and apartment building that's across the street at 1214, 1216, and 1218 East Broadway. I do have a couple of pictures of that. This kind of gives you a good idea of the area. The lots that we were talking about today are this lot where the campers were. I think they were moved to this lot so we could do some digging and groundwork and testing and that sort of thing. And we're also purchasing the lot that's closest to Broadway where the Chief Auto Parts store is. For this project, again, it's 55 units. We're dedicating it to seniors 55 and above, and restricting those to households that earn between 30 and 80% of county median income. Most of the units will be 1 bedrooms. We do have a few 2 bedrooms in there as well. And the project will have underground parking and a lot of other amenities that I'll get to in a second. I just want to also just show some pictures of the amenities of the first phase, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're building and what we intend to build here in terms of finish level and that sort of thing. So this is a picture of our front entrance. Here's a picture of our community spaces. There's another one here as well. And then I believe this is also a picture of our community space with our little loft in there for our Broadway lofts that was finished right before we were able to do our grand opening. Kind of slid it in there right last minute, but got her done. We also have exercise rooms at all of our properties, on-site office. Let me see if I can grab a photo, kind of give you an idea of what the units look like. So here's our standard finishes for the kitchens in our apartments. We like to do backsplashes, stainless steel appliances, solid surface countertops. This is quartz. Again, stainless steel appliances. All of our properties will include these appliances, plus washer and dryer, free internet for the residences, etc. Going back to the site plan, what Doug had referred to is, we're buying 2 lots, and basically between our lot, we have to, share a little bit of parking, so we'll have some parking agreements to have a few stalls between lot 3 and then give us access to lot 4. We're also going to be entering into a shared parking agreement for some parking stalls, some overflow parking if necessary, if ever necessary, here for our first project. But you can see, kind of the driveway comes in on lot 4 and gets shared by both lot 3 and lot 4. And so to meet our parking and kind of get everything ready to go, we are installing all of this parking area. And we have yet to determine if we're going to be the ones developing this 2,400 square foot commercial building, or if we would have someone else come in and develop it. But we are going to get it ready for that purpose. And then our project also accesses the underground parking on lot 2, which we have an agreement in place with the current seller to allow for an easement to basically finish off this roundabout. Right now it's all gravel here. We would finish that off and then bring in the driveway underneath. Some renderings of the building. It's going to be pretty similar architecture, 4-story building. We'll also have our community room for this property be on the 4th floor. If I go back to, let me see, give me 1 second. One of the main reasons why we were doing that, if I go back to this picture, it just allows for some amazing views of Mud Lake, Walbisa, that sort of thing. We've seen these views from the 4th floor of our current building, and they're spectacular. And this site, actually, with all of the trees and all of the green space, actually has boded very well for residential. We have B-cycle stations currently right here on phase 1 that could be used by, other tenants that would live, at this site. And also, as you all know, the city did, put in the new bus line that has a bus stop across the street by the Denny's, I believe. Going back to some of the other renderings, a few things I will note about the project is sustainability is really important to us. Originally, when we came through in earlier this year, we had talked about meeting Energy Star multifamily new construction certification levels, which is obviously increased insulation, making the unit more energy efficient. We're still adhering to those, that and the EPA Indoor Air Plus. But additionally to WIDA, we've committed to LEED Silver and LEED Zero Energy certifications. And so we're really focused on delivering on that sustainability aspect, making sure that utility bills are as low as possible at this property, and having that renewable energy option. I do have a cool picture. Let me see if I can go back. Yeah, you can kind of see we have a 100 and I think it's it's an 80 kilowatt solar system on the first phase. So you can see all the solar panels that we have up here. We wouldn't likely need something this large, but still, with working with MG&E, we're able to size our solar panel systems to eliminate up to 90% of the common area electrical uses of the building, which has been really nice. And so, that's pretty much all I have, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions for Sean? None? Okay. Once again, this will be coming back. Sean, I thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
And have a good evening.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, that takes us to Doug. Thank you.
Thank you
so much, as always. It takes us to H. Reports of committees, commissions, boards, mayor, city administrator, city attorney, department manager, sustainability efforts, diversity, equity, inclusion efforts. Start down at this end, Rick?
No report.
No report? Hey, you know what? Actually, you do have a report. Could you,
Oh, the turkeys?
no. No, but you actually sent some population numbers earlier
yeah.
this week that you said you thought might be interesting to share with the council at this meeting, and so this
Oh,
would be a good
okay.
time to do that. I thought it was interesting.
Okay. DOA revised population numbers as they do every year, so Monona now officially has 9,000 people, whereas it had 8,600 before. 460 new residents. So we grew our population by 5%.
That's pretty
That
good.
made our sign now.
Yeah, just goes to show there's probably more families moving in too, because it's not like we've built that much development, economic development. That's great.
Yeah. Did you say that population number included the turkeys, or no?
So we haven't really done a count on the turkeys, but I know there are 3 very dangerous ones on Pheasant Hill, which
They may
changed
be
the
reducing
name
our
of the street.
population, right? Yeah, chasing some people out of town, right?
Okay. All right, Brian,
I don't have any report tonight.
no report. Okay, Doug?
No city report, MPO, we did, it's a little bit interesting, we, as we often do, approved amendments to the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan, for new projects. The board approved many of them, which were mostly carbon reduction projects. However, the board ended up pulling out the Interstate 39 project and tabling it for, I think it's discussion regarding the local share of a very small part of a $2 billion project. So hopefully that will get worked out by the next meeting. The DOT people were, as they want to be, kind of nervous and upset about it, but, so, we shall see. That's it.
Parks met last week, and we continued to discuss budget priorities, and also had a kind of detailed discussion about the future of the pool, and, you know, what we're looking at as to when we're getting close to a drop dead date on when we should start thinking about replacing the pool. So that discussion has begun, and we're gonna keep that on the agenda and keep talking about that for a bit, and kind of start that planning process. Because I think the estimates are somewhere around the 10-year mark. We need to start really considering potential replacement.
It's 32 years old.
32 years old, and it's dependent upon, and there's a leak in the pool now. The leak is, do you remember what Jake said? It's leaking, was it
10,000 gallons a day.
10,000 gallons a day right now? So they're trying to
Not just
isolate.
from the leak.
No, but it's not just the
they're
leak, but it's
using
like,
10,000.
using like 10,000 gallons a
I was
day.
gonna
There's
say,
a
holy
significant,
crap.
no, there's a
That's a
significant leak, and they're trying to isolate where that leak is, and it's problematic they've been unable to determine where it is as of yet. So depending on how bad that leak is, that leak could turn into creating a cavity under the pool, which then could collapse a portion of the pool, which would then prompt us to have to do something far sooner than later. So.
I think they should probably just drain the pool now and figure it out. You know, just for a week or two. I'm sure people would be fine with
I
it.
think
Closes this weekend,
It
doesn't
closes
it?
this weekend, and I
Yeah.
think it's been they've known they've had a leak
For a
for
while.
years.
Yeah, for years,
So
and
they
they
need
can't,
approval to
yes.
do more
Mhm.
in-depth
Oh, okay.
analysis.
Yes, but it's a very active year for the pool.
Yeah.
You know, talking about and some capital improvement projects, but yeah, that's all I got.
Brian?
Oh, one more thing.
Oh.
Sorry.
Sorry.
One more thing. Had another motorcycle ride, poker run fundraiser for Canine for canine support, and it was successful. I think, Chief, I think it was it $5,000 that was raised on that event?
Just under 5,000.
Just under 5,000. So that was a positive thing for the city.
Got it. Sorry, Rachel?
Just to add to the pool leak, that because the water table is so high this year, they think it has lessened the leak, which I found interesting, that it, so.
The pressure against pressure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it could be worse. Otherwise, the only other thing, there's, facilities committee meeting this week, Thursday.
Holy cow.
Which will be my first one.
Yeah.
It's
Great.
exciting.
And what's on the agenda for facilities? Do you know?
I have not done my research yet, but.
Okay. Okay.
It's only Monday.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, a couple more days.
Chief, you don't have anything?
No, I don't.
You should.
Wait, you're not gonna talk about National Night Out?
I was going to talk about national, but I would.
Thank you.
Yeah, 'cause you
But-
were there,
but
so-
you're-
Please.
Yeah. But let's go to Administrator.
All right,
You
just
go
a couple of
first.
quick items. Thanks in part to a note from Alderwood this morning, staff's already been kind of keeping an eye on lake levels, but Alderwood did point out today it's getting higher than we would like to in terms of overall comfort, obviously with the continued rain continuing to come in. Fortunately, the long-term forecast looks pretty good right now in terms of lessening it, but we are going to meet as a staff tomorrow afternoon to kind of talk about if we get a couple one of these real gully washers that we don't count on, it could be a problem,
Yeah.
especially if it's further up the watershed, even not necessarily here. So we're going to be kind of taking a look at that. No immediate actions are anticipated at this point, but we are going to be kind of just taking a look at that and checking our notes from the last time Winona had to deal with this back in 2018. So we're just kind of be ready in case the weather does pull a fast one on us and try to surprise us again.
Are you still anticipating 2 inches tomorrow? No.
I don't believe so. I think I think it's lessened up a little bit, but again, wait another 30 minutes and the forecast can change again with the way it's been going
Yeah.
lately, so. I think the mayor and I both participated in a Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District budget meeting, but it was very high level again. We're trying to still kind of not getting down to the level of detail we really need, so I think we're probably going to invite either Eric or his budget person to kind of sit down with Mark and probably Dan and myself to sit down and kind of have them explain some of the capital needs that they're really trying to review. I think operationally, I feel like they are running a tighter ship than I think they probably have in the past. I think they're doing a little evaluating some of their staff positions a little bit better and keeping that in mind. But I think their capital is still aggressive, to put it lightly. So I think we're going to try to get them to have at least a little bit of certainly at the minimal level, and more explanation to staff. But we may actually invite them to come to a finance committee at some point and provide some
Honestly,
information
can
as
say
well.
I didn't even necessarily think it was at such a high level. It was just so over the top geeky that it was really hard to understand. Seriously, I mean, it was a bunch of engineers
It was
talking
fairly
about
technical,
pieces of
yeah.
equipment and but the overall thing was not surprisingly, just like us, they have really a lot of their facilities are old. They've got a bunch of equipment and facilities that are 100 years old, and so they're playing catch up as it relates to.
And then just one last item is I believe I was looking for the email, but I couldn't track it down here from either Mark or Aline. I believe that they updated our median house value. I think is coming in. It looks like it's right around $470,000 is our median home value right now. I'll have them verify that. But in terms of, if you remember, obviously that became an important number in referendum times when we were trying to project what the overall impact per house was going to be. Kind of similarly doing that as we kind of look at some of our capital items going forward. At least we kind of have use that to break down at like a per $100,000 value to give us some not only staff but also council a metric of kind of evaluating impacts on levels of borrowing and so forth. So continues to increase. Don't see it going down anytime soon. It was a pretty pretty hot spot on the real estate market. I mean, as we heard tonight, I would even argue that it's an example of not only the great historic house that they talked about, but I think just the overall desirability of the community is still pretty fantastic. So that's it, Mayor.
Great. Well, I just, as it relates to National Night Out, I just wanted to say that I did attend, as did Rachel. Didn't know if any of the rest of you were there, but it was thought it was very well done, and there was a new feature this year put on by Fire Protection. Is that what they are? Fire Restoration Service, where they had the fire department light 2 different rooms. Basically, it was a trailer where they lit one room that had sprinklers and then put it out, and then lit another room that had no sprinklers, and let it burn until people could see how quickly it hit the flash point, and then the whole thing went up. So it was a pretty dramatic demonstration, and people were pretty glued, not surprisingly, were pretty glued to it. And also, they got to see our guys in action a little bit, putting out the fire. But I think it was a really good demonstration because people could see, most people, if you've never been involved in a fire, you really don't realize how quickly it can happen, or the fact that there's so much smoke involved with it. And the smoke's a real problem. So anyway, they had a lovely family band, and Parks and Rec had stuff going on, and I think it was just overall well attended. I just want you all to know that I was strongly encouraging our police department and fire department to put us back in the dunk tank next year, because it used to be that the alders and the mayor could sit for it was an option. Doug's shaking his head like, not for me.
I'll do it. I thought that was only for mayors and city administrators.
Yeah, it said mayors and city administrators.
I displaced too much water. They
Police
don't tank
chiefs.
too much, so.
Anyway, I was impressed. And I just thought it was a job really well done. And I appreciate the amount of effort that MOPD puts into it and the fire department puts into it. And it's really another big community event that we can be proud of. Want to also give a shout out of thanks to the big beer garden that happened at San Damiano this last week on Thursday. By far the biggest beer garden we've ever had in Monona. We were estimating over 1,500 people in attendance. And it was a celebration. Not only the biggest part of it was a celebration for the 10th anniversary of WVMO, is our radio station, and also an expression of gratitude to Lindsay Wood Davis, who is stepping aside in his active role. At least that's what he says he's doing. Those of us that know Lindsay, I'm still, we'll see. It's pretty tough for him, but it's been a labor of love for a lot of people, and it was very well done. Also wanted to express a little bit of gratitude for a reception and event that went on Saturday for the Harry Whitehorse Festival. Whitehorse International Wood Sculpture Festival did a community days where they brought everybody back together, so that involved a lot of people coming from out of town. They did demonstrations all day, including carving, and they had drumming, and they had a good turnout overall. It was a horrid day to try to pull something like that off. It was at Ahuska Park, and because it was, sunny, rain, pouring, thunder and lightning, sunny, raining, all day. It was just a tough one, but that was supported by tourism, and a lot of the family members that live from out of town did come and stay at their hotels here and such. So the festival and the city and the Friends of San Damiano are spelling out a new MOU around who's responsible for what for the sculpture festival that's to happen in 2026. As I think you all know, The festival has become its own 501c3, so just as we've done with a lot of organizations this year, writing new MOUs with the community festival, with this festival, with other folks that do events, we're really working hard at, the staff is working really hard at getting things nailed down in advance so it's more efficient, more effective, more efficient. Everybody knows who's responsible for what, so we're not chewing up a lot of extra staff time, and I appreciate that from the city staff and from the city administrator. The Ad Hoc Public Safety Building Committee is meeting at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, this Wednesday the 20th. Karen Wolf, who's the Arts and Culture Administrator at City of Madison, is looking, as I mentioned, I think before everybody was here, is looking to put a Brewers mural somewhere in the metro area, and asked me when I saw her on Friday night if Monona might be interested in creating a mural somewhere for celebrating the Brewers. So I am certain that our staff will take that under advisement and come back with some recommendations as to what we might be able to do. I'll find out more details about that probably tomorrow. And last but not least, you probably have all read in your emails from like the League of Municipalities. I think they were the ones that reported out. There has been, there's been additional legal developments challenging the various provisions of STR, of short-term rental ordinances. And so, as we've said previously, it's, I think as a result of those, the court decisions, we're apt to be back with our ordinance for adjustments. And in the meantime, we, knowing that stuff was coming down the pike, the plan office has definitely been granting more exceptions than we might have thought previously, just because we don't want to run afoul of changes, but you can expect that to come down the pike.
We're afraid Bill's getting bored, Mayor, so. We're afraid Bill's getting bored.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So, Bill, do you have anything?
No.
I should have asked you before I went.
As the mayor pointed out, there are changes, judicial decisions affecting the STR. I'm reviewing them now and expect to work with Neil and the staff on some ordinance amendments to bring them back, but that'll be a little ways yet. That's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
Mayor, I just had one more announcement, and Chief, correct me if I have the wrong number here, but Assistant Chief Sarah is celebrating 28 years with us here this past week, so I want to make a note of that. That's a pretty significant number. So if you swing by City Hall, make sure and say hi to her and tell her happy anniversary. So
that's impressive.
Do we know the actual anniversary date?
It's what is it, couple weeks ago?
My calendar.
Exactly.
The 13th was last Wednesday.
Fantastic. And we don't have any other staff on, so with that, I would take a motion to approve the appointment.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to say adjournment.
No. Motion to approve the appointments to the Ad Hoc Comprehensive Plan Committee.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions about the appointments?
We have some more still coming, correct?
Yes, and it says at the bottom that you received information earlier in me today. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great. Now I will take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.